Call the March 19th work session to order. First item on the agenda, March 5th work session notes. Any changes?
I have none.
Sounds good. Stand as written. Next item on the agenda, resolution advancing the statutory process for the Heart of America RHID.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. We're in receipt of an application for a rural housing incentive district from Heart of America Development Corporation. Their project involves the development of street and additional infrastructure to serve approximately 75 residential lots located northeast of the intersection of 22nd Street and Wheatland. As you can imagine, not unlike TIF, the RHID process is multifaceted. The very first step in this process is adopting a resolution making certain housing needs, findings, and determinations, advancing the statutory process for the creation of the RHID. Following adoption and publication, the resolution would then be sent to the Kansas Secretary of Commerce for approval to move forward with the creation process and further commission action. This map shows the site of the proposed housing development. NCK is to the west here, and then we have 22nd down here, and then I-70 up in the corner. Phase one of the project involves the installation of streets and additional infrastructure to support the development of 38 lots, highlighted in yellow on this map. It's anticipated that the price of the homes would range from $175,000 to $225,000. Construction of phase one is expected to begin in the fall of 2020, following the city's approval of the requested incentives, with single-family home construction beginning later in 2020 or early 2021. Phase one is expected to be completed approximately 24 to 36 months thereafter. Phase two of the project involves installation of streets and additional infrastructure to support development of 25 lots, highlighted in blue on the map. Phase two would be started with phase one approximately 75% complete. And then finally, phase three of the project involves installation of streets and the infrastructure to support development of the 12 remaining lots highlighted in the green on this map. No specific time frame so far on that regarding phase three. Basically, it'll be based on financial feasibility and dependent on the remaining time left in the RHID.
On phase one, it's 24 to 36 months to complete. That means they're built, or that the 75% will be sold at that point?
I believe they're projecting 24 to 36 being complete, but they're going to start at 75% completion on phase two. Total cost of the project is estimated to be $2,743,000, with all of that eligible for RHID and reimbursement. Term of the RHID is 25 years, and the RHID incremental property tax over the 25 years is estimated to be $3.663 million. So it's anticipated that the full 25 years wouldn't necessarily be needed in that scenario. That's a brief summary of the project overview and the economic development incentives request. RHIDs are fairly new to us, so we have Special Counsel Kevin Wempe with Gilmore Bell joining us by phone here to go over some slides on a bit of an RHID 101, and then I'll close out with your options and recommendations for next week. So, Kevin, you are up.
Well, great. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for letting me join remotely here from my coronavirus bunker here in Kansas City. This new world isn't much fun so far, but I appreciate you accommodating me this evening. And so I've got a few slides here. Should just take a few minutes to go over the basics of RHID. A lot of it should be fairly familiar and similar to other projects we've discussed at the city, utilizing other development tools. But we'll talk about how it works and the types of costs it can be used for, and give an overview of the entire process, looking at specific dates going forward. And I'll try to keep in mind to stop talking between every slide or two and ask for any questions, but also obviously feel free to interject and let me know if a hand goes up in the room or we need to talk about something more specifically. So on the next slide that has RHID basics at the top, this just provides some basic statutory background of the statute that's now a little over 20 20 years old. The obvious purpose here is to incentivize investment in housing stock and what the statute refers to as rural communities. And you can see on the slide here that the statute defines this using population, 60,000 and 80,000 thresholds there for city and county. So essentially, it disallows larger populated areas from using this tool. As I mentioned at the outset, this is sort of TIF-like in procedure and operation, in that it has lengthy procedural steps that require certain notices and hearings. And in an operation, the main purpose and tool here is that it captures incremental property taxes over the life of the district in order to reimburse certain costs that we'll get to here in a minute. On the next slide with redevelopment district at the top, again, similar to TIF, the process involves forming a district within which the increment can be collected. And the way this district is defined and the area within the district is at the city's discretion. In this case, the developer came forward and proposed the district be created on the three-phase map that Kim showed earlier. And that's the plan here, is to create a single district over those properties. In order to create the district, the statute requires that the city perform a housing needs analysis, make certain findings by resolution, publish that resolution, and obtain approval from the Secretary of Commerce related to those findings. And those, underneath the second bullet point there, the 4 findings that you'll consider at next week's meeting in the resolution. And these are just a recitation of the statutory prerequisites as found in the housing needs analysis that has been performed. So I'll stop here now and see if any questions or anything to cover so far.
We're good so far.
Okay. Okay, on the next slide, how RHID works. Again, RHID captures incremental property taxes for certain eligible costs. And we'll continually refer to TIF because it is so similar, and it's something we're familiar with on other projects. So these concepts, again, should be familiar, and we'll kind of go down some of these bullet points and highlight comparisons to TIF and how they operate. So the first bullet point mentions that 100% of incremental real property taxes can be captured, and that is less 21.5 mils, a small portion of that being the state, and then the 20 mil base school district levy. That's a little bit different from TIF because TIF also excludes the 8 mil capital outlay levy of the school district. So RHID, in fact, lets you capture a little bit more than TIF otherwise would. The timing of the district is limited to 25 years, and that is a recent change in the RHID law from a couple of years ago that extended it from 15 to 25 years. So what that means is you can collect increment for these costs from the date the district's created until 25 years thereafter. And in comparison to TIF, that's more than TIF, which is limited to 20 years per project plan. Finally, the method of financing is pay-as-you-go or bonds. And special obligation bonds can be issued for RHID projects. And we'll talk a little bit more on a slide later on, but here we're anticipating a pay-as-you-go project rather than issuance of bonds by the city. Okay, on the next slide with redevelopment plan and project at the top. These two concepts are similar to your TIF district and your TIF project plan. So the redevelopment project plan relates to the entire district, which is a broader plan, and it relates to basically the overall purpose of the district. And then within each district, you can have multiple projects, which can all be undertaken within that 25-year window of the overall district. And unfortunately, these two names are very similar and easily confused. But keep in mind the district, and within that, the plans. Here, we just have one district and a single plan. We do have, in some cases, see developers try to take a multi-phase, multi-district approach in order to utilize more than just the 25-year window, so they would have separate 25-year windows for the separate districts and projects. However, each district is subject to notice, publication, veto rights of the county and school district, and so forth. So it's sort of a cost benefit between those two, whether a developer would try to do multiple districts or have the project contained in a single district. And for this project, we discussed all this with the parties and understand that we're proceeding with the single district and 25-year clock here.
I had a question on the 25. How is that set by statute, or can that be limited? Could we set the restriction if we wanted to at 20 years? I know they believe they'll be done quicker than 25, but
Kevin, the question is the 25 years set by statute?
Correct, and I think I heard the tail end there too. So yeah, the 25 years is set forth by statute, and as of a couple of years ago, it used to be limited to 15, but the legislature added a little more firepower to the act. I think it was in 2017 to extend it to 25-year reimbursement or collection period.
Kevin, I think.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
This is John Bird. The question, I think, is could it be shorter if a governing body made it shorter? In other words, is the 25 a parameter, or is it a set amount, period that it has to be?
Got it, yeah. The governing body does have discretion to shorten this period under the development agreement. So similar to TIF and CID projects that we've considered in the last several years, that is up to governing body discretion to limit the term of the district. So yeah, the statute just sets the outside boundaries.
If the school or county, like just one of them would vote against it, does it void the project?
Right. So the a couple of slides ahead, we sort of lay out the process,
Okay.
But correct. So the school district and county do have absolute veto rights, similar to TIF, where if within 30 days of the public hearing establishing the district, they veto it, it basically kills the project. Okay, I'm on the funding method slide, which we previewed just a minute ago. There are two methods, pay-as-you-go or special obligation bonds. So again, pay-as-you-go just means the developer's fronting costs and collecting the increment as it accrues. This is typical for projects that the city's recently incentivized. I'm not aware the city's issued bonds at all for certain projects like this. And so in this case, same thing here. Developers fronting the cost, and the city will collect the incremental property taxes in a separate fund that are used to reimburse the developer as it makes its application and gets all the evidence of spending costs on certain project costs. Bonds we won't spend but a second on here because they're not anticipated, but the city is allowed under statute to issue special obligation bonds. And that just means the city's prohibited from putting its credit behind the bonds. They would just be payable from the incremental property taxes. And cities don't come out of pocket for these. It's just the redirection of the property taxes, which typically means there's no market for those bonds, and it has to be the developer's lender coming forth to take placement of those bonds. The next slide talks about permitted uses of bond proceeds. So again, I'll draw a comparison to TIF. There are a delineated list of costs that are eligible for reimbursement with those incremental RHID revenues. And this list generally allows just for basic horizontal infrastructure to be reimbursed and does not allow reimbursement of vertical costs. So here you can see the very similar to TIF. It's for property acquisition, site prep, street sidewalks, and more public improvements. So getting back to the purpose of the statute, you can see that the list is designed to have the redirected taxes help finance these costly infrastructure items that are more public in nature, and while disallowing the use for more vertical private improvements. Okay, the next slide talking about effect on the taxing districts. So the first bullet point says that other taxing districts are held harmless at the base property tax level. So that just means that at the current base value, assessed value, taxes going forward through the life of the district would be collected and distributed per the normal method on that current assessed valuation. Any assessed valuation above the assessed valuation on the date the district was created would go into the RHID fund and made available to reimburse the developer for the eligible costs. And again, we mentioned earlier, that increment does carve out the 20 mills that go to the school district and the mill and a half for the state. And then once the district expires, which again is a maximum 25-year window, the full improved valuation is restored to the tax rolls and distributed to all taxing jurisdictions. And of course, under the development agreement, this period can be shorter than 25 years at the governing body's discretion, or you can, a lot of times what we see is folks will put in 25-year term, but if the reimbursement cap is reached before that time period runs, then the district would expire at that point. Okay, I think this is my last slide here talking about the district formation procedures. This lays out some of the steps we've talked about to date. And of course, the first thing is the housing need analysis, which has been completed. And then at next week's meeting, the commission will consider a resolution making the findings required by the statute, and then follow that with sending the request for the approval of the Secretary of Commerce. That usually takes up to 6-8 weeks. So I think we built in close to 2 months on the calendar to get a response from the Secretary. So we'll use that kind of as a ballpark date to build out from there. In the meantime, we'll begin drafting and negotiating a development agreement to set forth the terms of the project and how the developer will get reimbursed and over what time frame and so forth. And then following that presumed Secretary of Commerce approval date, that's when the commission would consider a resolution calling a public hearing on the establishment of the district and adoption of the project plan. There will be notice published and provided to the other taxing jurisdictions. And there in the second to last bullet point, a public hearing would be held, followed by consideration of an ordinance establishing the district, adopting the plan, and triggering that 25-year clock or whatever the term of the district is going to be. And then, as mentioned a few minutes ago, there is a 30-day protest period where the county or school district can veto the project. So I think that's it as far as my prepared material, but obviously happy to field any questions you all might have.
I don't have
I
anything.
don't have any.
Looks like you did a good job, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hey, excellent.
Thank you.
So next week, options will be to, if you so choose tonight to move it on, next week options would be to adopt the resolution, decline to adopt it, or provide us with other direction. And so next week our recommendation and action requested will be to approve that resolution.
Move it on.
Thank you very much for your help, Kevin.
Hey, you bet. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all soon.
Next item on the agenda, a resolution calling a public hearing on the D&J Land Development Tax Increment Financing Project Plan.
Good evening, still Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. This agenda item is the next step in the proceedings we're in the midst of in connection with an application of economic incentives from D&J Land Development, LLC. So you've seen several times items regarding this process. This is the timeline we've presented before. We've completed the annexation as well as the TIF public hearing and ordinance. Now we're asking for a resolution setting a public hearing on the project plan per state statute. In addition, this past Monday, we presented the TIF project plan to the City of Hayes Planning Commission, and they unanimously agreed that the project plan is consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan for the development of the City of Hayes. This map, excuse me, this map represents the developer's rendition of what they call Phase 1. It's 11 lots. The developer will construct a travel plaza and truck wash on the 2 of the lots, and the remaining lots in Phase 1 will be sold or leased to other users for potential development of hotels, restaurants, or other commercial uses. Project plan before you is basically a summary of the project, which includes the project description, costs, funding, feasibility study, and other legal requirements provided for by statute, as well as our own economic development policy. According to the city's economic development policy, this TIF district will capture the increment only. No sales tax will be not the sales tax. All taxing authorities will receive the retailer sales tax generated by the property. The TIF is a 20-year, according to statute, and will be on a pay-as-you-go basis, again meaning the developer funds all the financing and no bonds will be issued by the city. A review of some of the numbers we've seen. Total construction of the travel plaza and truck wash is estimated to be $22.4 million. Upon sale of all the developable lots and completion of Phase 1, the developer estimates the appraised value of Phase 1 and improvements being $50.7 million. The developer also estimates Phase 1 development upon completion will create $38.7 million in annual retail sales and $3 million of monthly gas and diesel sales. Over the 20-year life of the TIF, it's expected it would generate $14.9 in ad valorem property tax revenue, and the reimbursement of the TIF eligible costs will be $12.4, which includes the $1.5 KDOT grant they've asked for. The feasibility study was prepared using financial projections formulated by the developer. The study shows that if the project develops as expected, the estimated TIF revenues combined with the CID sales tax, the KDOT grant, the developer's private debt, and equity will be sufficient to pay the costs of the reimbursable expenditures. Feasibility study also called out some benefits to the local economy, which included creation of 263 jobs, an increase in the hotel room capacity of the city, a needed regional travel plaza and truck wash, and an increase in sales tax revenue. And finally, the Wichita State University Center for Economic Development calculated a benefit to cost ratio of 1.66 for the city of Hays as it pertains to the full build out of the project. So next week, your options, if you choose tonight to move it on, next week your options will be to adopt the resolution calling for the public hearing on the project plan. The action keeps the project moving forward. If you decline to adopt, it stalls the development, or you can provide us with other direction. Our recommendation and action next week will be to adopt that resolution.
Moving on.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, resolution calling for a public hearing on the D&J Land Development Community Improvement District.
One more time tonight. The developer, DJ Land and Development LLC, has submitted a petition to the City of Hays to create a Community Improvement District, or a CID. They have also included the application for economic development incentives and fees as required by the city's economic development policy. So before we get into that petition, we thought we'd do a real quick review of CIDs again. They were enacted in 2009 to help cities promote business activity and economic development. CIDs are designed to be a special assessment and or special sales tax on retail sales up to 2% max for no longer than 22 years. CIDs are used to help property owners reimburse themselves for public buildings, infrastructure, parking, landscape, and the promotion of tourism and recreational cultural activities. And to be clear, these are not sales tax that already exist. They are an additional sales tax on retail sales in the defined property area. So basically, if it's something the landowner or developer wishes to have imposed on themselves, they can do so to help reimburse for the items we mentioned above. This is a map of the property that you've seen numerous times. It was included in the petition from D&J. The red hashed area is the proposed CID, which encompasses the travel plaza and truck wash previously mentioned. D&J Land is asking for the imposition of a 2% CID to help in the construction on the property. The proposed improvements include installation of buildings, landscaping, lighting, infrastructure, utilities, sidewalks, installation of parking lots, and methods of ingress and egress, all consistent with development of commercial property within the authorized zoning for that property. Total estimated project costs for the travel plaza and truck wash are $6 million, with $4.3 being eligible for CID reimbursement. The developer has projected that their 2% would generate $2.92 million over the 22-year life of the loan. And again, this is pay-as-you-go, so no bonds are issued. Those will be privately funded by the developer up front. State statute requires a public hearing regarding the establishment of CIDs, so your options next week, should you move this item on, would be to adopt a resolution setting the public hearing, decline, or provide us with other direction. And again, we are recommending you move this forward to next week to set a public hearing for May 14th, 2020.
On a CID, does it, so they got a 22-year, if they collect their cost, does it fall off if they?
Yep. Stops once they hit their cap, yep.
Moving on. Thank you, Kim. Next item on the agenda, legal notice publication, proposed charter ordinance allowing the city of Hayes to publish official notices via website.
Good evening, Colin Belzer, Assistant City Manager. Gotta get used to that.
I was about to say attorney.
Administrator. All right, so this agenda item is recommended as a way to make publications less costly to the taxpayers and increase publication timing and efficiency. So recently it's become more costly and difficult to publicize ordinances and other legal notices in the Hayes Daily News. State statute does require a city-designated newspaper to be the official city publication. However, the governing body can adopt a charter ordinance which would allow, by resolution, the governing body to designate the City of Hayes website as the official city news outlet. This action does not preclude the continued use of newspapers or continued traditional media outlets that are printed. So there, as I noted, there's been a reduction in Hayes Daily News staff, which has created some issues. Design and sizing are completed by a third party in Topeka. We've actually had some issues where a publication increased in size without notification, increasing the cost to the city. Another instance was an ordinance recently had the county clerk stamp added to it. And then in addition to that, many publications are time sensitive with public hearings and, excuse me. I have to use the, there. So if we have the ability to publish more quickly, they could accommodate those public hearings more easily. It doesn't not tie us to any outlet that's charging a fee. Other cities have passed similar charter ordinances. Lenexa has passed a charter ordinance. Inman, Kansas is doing this. McPherson recently passed a charter ordinance. They're in their waiting period. And Baldwin City has also done the same. Average annual cost for legal publications right now is about $9,400. So a charter ordinance, Hayes has adopted 27 of these. They must be adopted by 2/3 vote. Then they're published in the Hayes Daily News twice. And then a 60-day protest period is part of that. If 10% or more of the electors file protests during the 60 days, then the charter ordinance must be submitted to a vote. So if you move forward with this, what we would do is we would create a legal publication news flash. You can sign up as a citizen for this specific type of news flash. So you could go to the website, say you want to be notified when there is a legal publication. It'd be right on the front page, and then you can click read on, and then it would be the full legal publication is what we would post on our website. Your options are the City Commission can approve a charter ordinance allowing the City of Hayes to publish official notices via the website, do nothing, or provide staff with other direction. And we are requesting that you approve a charter ordinance allowing the city to publish official notices via the city website.
I think this is really an excellent idea, no matter the other problems that we're having. So many people in today's society are used to going to websites for their information. The only thing that I would stress again, as I normally do, is that we make very sure we're communicating in every way possible so people can know they can sign up for that news flash. That's the big thing. And in my opinion, I think they'll get that opportunity to see everything so much quicker and things they're probably more interested in. I'm good with it.
The question I have, and I agree with you on that, is do we have a way of knowing like how many clicks we get on our website? I don't know if clicks is the right word.
I believe Chad can find that, yeah.
Do you have any idea?
I don't right now, but I can ask Chad.
I'd be interested to know because with the number of subscribers to the newspaper, just be interesting to see if it's close to the same, a lot more. Or
I'm betting Chad knows off the top of his head when you ask.
And one advantage too is this would be on the website for longer than it might be in
Absolutely.
one paper, in one edition of the paper.
And we're saving taxpayers money.
Good idea.
I was going to say the same thing. Is this is accessible 24 hours a day, and a lot of people either don't get their newspaper on a certain day, it doesn't show up, or they're out of town, they miss this. They can check this anytime, any place, from any place. So I think it's a good deal.
It's also great. You can sign up for the news flash, notify me, and get it sent right to your email. You don't even have to go to the website necessarily right
Yeah.
away. I mean, it can go anytime there's a legal publication, right in your email. Don't
Love
even
it.
have to look for it.
Great idea. Moving on.
Go ahead.
Moving on. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Colin.
All right.
Assistant City Administrator.
Yeah, whatever you are.
Manager's a better form of government.
Uh-huh.
Other items for discussion. Commissioner Millick.
This is trying times for everyone. I think that if everybody in our community would take the proper precautions, that we can remain a low risk for this coronavirus. And I was thinking today that my grandparents and my parents all survived World War II, the Depression, and my grandparents' 1918 Spanish flu, and they had frustrations, but they stayed the course, and they made it through it, and we will too.
Burgess.
At least we can say it's been kind of a crazy week. I would tack on with that a little bit. Make sure when you're getting news that it's coming from trusted sources and resources that you're looking for. There is a lot of misinformation, unfortunately, in times like this. So our departments from the city have put out notices on different things of when things are going to be shut down or what's going on. So make sure it's a trusted source when you're looking for, especially local items of importance.
Yeah, and I'll continue with that as well. Great sources of information. Kansas Department of Health and Environment has a website designated for all things coronavirus, COVID-19, even down to specific employer-employee, how to take precautions and be safe and whatnot. The most important thing they keep reiterating is make sure you're washing your hands, make sure you're keeping social distancing as much as you can. And then if you have any questions, Hayes Med has set up a hotline. KDHE has a hotline. CDC has a hotline. The Ellis County Health Department is a good source of information as well. So just keep yourself informed with the most up-to-date information from these partners.
And I really can't add anything to that. Anybody that's not getting information is not looking for information, because it is out there. And if you're trusting nothing but social media, I suggest you look at another source.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, amen again. Yeah.
And I can sit on my sofa without any problems. I'm good with that.
Yeah. I just wanted to add on to a few things, talking with the city manager on that. Biggest thing with the city is focused on city services for the residents and the customers, doing the best we can every day, every hour. We were focused on ensuring the health of our employees and our customers. We were adapting to state and federal directives, sometimes hourly, it seems like. I urge all Hayes residents to take the appropriate measures to help slow the spread of the virus. As you guys said, more info can be found at the CDC and KDH websites. I own a business downtown, and I'm not gonna lie, guys, there ain't a business in this town that's not hurting right now. You go to Walmart and Dillon's, and yeah, they're doing a lot of business, but what those employees are putting up with right now, I've never seen such a thing. I've had people tell me where, people are yelling at them because they're out of who knows what, and I have no idea why people are doing this, but it's, I guess that's human nature. But I just, we're Hayes, we're Kansans. We can get through this. It's going to be tough, but I truly believe we'll get through this. I just hope the small businesses can make it, and I can't thank the community so far how much they've supported many of us small businesses. Without you guys, we wouldn't be around, and just thank everybody in our community and our surrounding area. I mean, as everybody knows, we depend on people from, western Kansas to come to Hayes on a daily basis. And right now, not a lot of that's happening, but it's just do your best and be good neighbors, and we'll get through this. We're adjourned.